Bullock?
You're on.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the Milford Board of Selectmen meeting for June 20th, 2016. Welcome, and first item on the agenda is the signing of the warrant.
I'll move. Seconded.
I'll also vote in favor, that's unanimous. Approval of the June 13th, 2016 minutes.
Motion made. Seconded.
Vote in favor, that's also unanimous. Next, we have invitation to speak. Somebody here who would like to address the board? Mr. Wheelock?
Oh, sorry. It's Jamie Wheelock. I'd like to speak tonight to counter the sensationalistic coverage about the hazards of swimming at the quarries that was on the television the other day. Yes, swimming is dangerous. The drowning of an adult at Walden Pond in Concord and the drowning of a teenage boy over the weekend are the latest reminders of how dangerous swimming is. The quarries, with the opportunities for jumping off of the high rocks, create additional hazards, yet the quarries continue to draw swimmers seeking a refreshing swim or even more excitement for new generations. I hope the town will, as I've said in past years, talk to the town council about how to find out how other towns in Massachusetts do swim at your own risk and allow the people who have pursued a walk into the woods to the quarries to swim can pursue that recreational activity without fear of being arrested or harassed off of the natural resource. It would be great if people used the quarries in the most ordinary way, including swimming, and didn't have an adversarial relationship with the police about the pursuits they're doing in the woods, if they are as mundane as swimming. I don't see anything useful in the police chief and the selectmen deciding just how much fun, what kind of fun people can pursue there. Obviously, there's differences of opinion, but considering that swim at your own risk happens all over the state, I think it could happen here too. I think there's a few other things I was going to say, but mostly, it would be great to get a definitive answer about whether swim at your own risk is a viable option in Milford. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Good to hear from you, Jamie. Okay. Public hearing scheduled appointments. The first item on the agenda is the annual Portuguese picnic, which seeks a one-day alcohol license, a live entertainment license, and a parade permit. And for the benefit of the board members and hopefully the community, I think this is run multiple years, many, many years in a row, for as long as I've been around and can remember, but I'm sure it's altered throughout the years. What I'd like to do, if the board is so inclined, is to look over differences this year. Because I think what we found over the years is the police chief, along with the management of the club, have refined the process to look for bans, to make sure folks aren't underage drinking, to manage it with staff from the police department. So I think you've got a good system. I guess what I'd like to explore is just any differences this year that you see.
Sure. We're in good shape. You know, as I've mentioned before, we meet across the year. We do a recap after the picnic last year, you know, working with Joe and the board at the club. And we've met several times over the course of this year in putting together the plan. The plan is essentially the same as last year, with two minor exceptions. One, the parade, rather than start at the lot opposite Sacred Heart, will start at St. Mary's Church and proceed down Winter Street onto Main. And that way we're not bogging down the traffic right at that major intersection, you know, where you have a bend in Main Street to East Main Street. The only other change, and it's actually a typo, is on the flyer that came in with the license. It has the music as 12:30 on the Saturday evening event. 12:30 a.m. It's 12:15 a.m. as it's accurately in the license itself.
And Chief, you still go through the same process, working with the club to wind down the volume of the music towards the end of the evening?
Yeah, I work very closely with Joe. I work as well as Anna and other staff members who are managing the event, and still go out into the neighborhoods and just see what the levels sound like, what it feels like, and make those decisions. They've always been cooperative and work those things out.
Well, it's my perspective that we get an opportunity once a year for those of us who are not Portuguese, to get a flavor of not only the foods, but some of for example, the young people dancing and the Portuguese dance is something. So I would encourage anybody to go up there, participate in that, especially during the day. I think Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, primarily Saturday, Sunday, but primarily Sunday. Sunday, you have a number of different events that take place during the day that involve young people as well as adults, cultural events.
Of course, there's the food. That's also a big part of the event.
There's a lot of food.
And, with that tradition that comes from Portugal, we get the benefit of tasting those foods and seeing those dances. So I always look at it and say celebrating one's culture is always a great thing, especially when we can do it safely and in a way that's organized. With the minor differences, is there any questions or comments, or prepared to accept a motion if members are so inclined?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as I look over the report and the application, I have a strange sense of deja vu because since you've been here, Chief, you've had this procedure down, and considering the large number of people that attend over a multi-day event from all areas and the events that occur, I think it's a very well-run operation. And you, along with your staff and the representatives from the Portuguese Club, I think deserve a lot of credit in having this kind of an event run so smoothly every year. It really adds, I think, to the rhythm and the vibe of our community. And I'm only a couple of streets over, and I sure as heck don't find the music a problem at all. I just think it's a wonderful summer night sound, and just reminds you of what it's like to be in a community. So it's a great event, and I close my eyes, and the application looks very similar to the last ones we've seen, so that's a good thing.
The dates changed, that's about it.
That's a good thing. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. You've got a good process and a great event, so you've done a great job, and wish you the best for another successful event.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve. We have a number of motions. You've got the one-day all-alcoholic license, the live entertainment license, and the parade permit.
With the adjustments that the chief has noted. I also vote in favor, so there's a motion, a second, and unanimous.
Thank
Lots
you.
of luck, and it's a lot of credit to you guys that it goes so smoothly. I'm sure it's not all roses and smooth, but I know that you work hard to keep it that way, so.
Sore feet, right, Joe?
Yeah. Nice job. All right, we're gonna hold the chief, because we have another matter for him.
We're gonna hold the chief, I don't know, that is an ominous sound.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Take care now. Take care. All right, what I'd like to move up is just while we have the chief here, his recommendations for municipal parking lots. And he's distributed to us, commercial vehicle parking lot, is Article 4, Section 4A of the municipal lot, and any of the changes. I know that we've bandied this about back and forth. The chief has gone through multiple iterations, and for that, I thank him for his patience with the business owners, with this board. And I know this is not the highest thing on your agenda, chief, with all the things that you have going on, but I do appreciate you working hard. If the board members are so inclined, first I'll ask if there's a motion to support the changes. Basically going to commercial, it's registered commercial vehicles and certain designations, and I'll read those. Lot J, between Jefferson Street and Central Street, 4 designated spaces. Between Pine Street and Fayette Street, which would be Lot P, 4 designated spaces. Commuter lot, opposite Sacred Heart Church, 2 designated spaces, located at the left rear of the lot. Total 10 spaces. And there's a memo that accompanies this, but I think we've all seen variants of this. And actually, we've seen this before, this exact recommendation in the past. There's also added to address people who are not parked within the lines, parked in undesignated areas, trailers that are not connected to a tow vehicle are prohibited. Parking commercial vehicle in Lot E, Exchange and Fayette Street, and then parking greater than 72 hours, and then pairing registered and unregistered vehicles. Are there any comments, or would the board like to approve this as written?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as we had discussed just prior to the opening of the meeting, and in light of some of the conversation that we heard in the media from a planning board meeting, it does bring to mind how this general town bylaw, this traffic bylaw, interacts with the zoning bylaw in terms of commercial vehicles, and whether they're allowed on residential property or not. And it would seem to make sense, I guess, at least from a definitional perspective, that the definition for commercial vehicle be the same
Right.
in the zoning bylaws as opposed to the traffic bylaws. I think the goal really is to try to make it as simple and as manageable for both the police department and the inspections department, but also, of course, for the residents, so that they can understand exactly what's allowed and what's not. So, and, I just hope that we're not, going backwards and driving a problem into the neighborhoods by limiting the areas of commercial vehicles in these parking lots, because we're just gonna be creating another issue that we had a number of years ago. So, Chief, I guess the question is, number one, in terms of this defining a commercial vehicle simply as a registration of a commercial vehicle, do you think that's a good way to go, or do you think that's the best way to go? I mean, there was a great example, it was on the radio today. I mean, you could have a husband and wife, running a printing business with a regular passenger vehicle, registered, registered to the business, and it would be considered a commercial vehicle. So,
I think in looking at, the large number of commercial vehicles that we're seeing being parked at Sacred Heart is related to the restrictions which are in the last page of this, over in the parking on the street, section 10A, which you cannot park a commercial vehicle in town from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., all day Sunday, and all day on legal holidays. The change that is within here would allow that person that has a pickup truck to park their pickup truck in front of their house, unless there's a snow emergency. So, as they would park one of their automobiles. So, that relieves some of what we were seeing in the lots at this point. If they went to one of the lots, yes, this definition compels them to use one of those commercial spaces. But nevertheless, it doesn't prohibit them from parking, for instance, along Main Street during the day. So, in looking at the two, I was trying to balance the two issues. What we did say here is you cannot park on the street from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., all day Sunday, all day legal holidays, any commercial vehicle that has greater than 2 axles or greater than 4 wheels. Very easy definition for everybody to appreciate. You have a dump truck with 6 wheels, you can't park it on the street overnight. You have to go use one of the commercial spaces. So that's the way that I try to approach it as we work through each step of this, and listening to the board as well as listening to the 8,000 phone calls that I receive from residents, people that are in trades, and the rest.
This actually makes it easier for some of those, right? It allows them to bring them to their street, bring them to their house, provided they're two axles, four wheels.
Right, and that's
A
where.
van, a pickup truck.
Right, and that's where we go back to
Yeah,
where,
that Brian
where
spoke of.
Brian Murray is speaking, is the issue is with, now in working with with John Erickson Planning Board, on the issue of parking those same types of vehicles at a residence. And I know there was some discussion, I heard, me too, through the media, or through the radio, the discussion of, is it one van or one pickup truck per structure? Or per residence. So if
Well, that would be a separate zoning issue. I don't.
Right, I
don't
think
even
that's I think
see
that's
that,
something
yeah.
for them to look at, but
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
I think on balance, what we're saying here, at this point, is close to where they are, of what can be parked on the private property and what cannot be parked on the private property. I know that they want to look at it, and I'm happy to work with them.
And this gets you out of the issue with the gross vehicle weight, whether it's
It's-
loaded, whether it's not loaded.
It's hard to determine, when you start to, in fact, if you listen to the tape, they don't understand it.
Right.
And I'm not being critical of them, I don't understand it, so, are you talking about the weight of the vehicle itself, or the load that it can carry, or, because there's a number of different interpretations.
Sure.
And that's what we tried to get away from. If it's registered commercial vehicle, we know it's a commercial vehicle.
It has more than four wheels?
If it has more than four wheels, then it has to be, it can't be parked on the street. It has to be parked during those prohibited times. It has to be parked in one of those commercial spaces. If the commercial spaces are all used up,
You have to look
the
for me.
person that owns the vehicle has to figure
Has
it
to
out.
find a spot.
That's pretty much where we,
Well, that's the other thing, because I know you've got a total, I believe, of 10 spaces, but I thought we identified that it's generally 18 to 20 or 30 vehicles, so.
when we counted the vans and when we
Yeah.
counted pickup trucks, so vehicles that we would not be looking at. When we looked at the larger trucks, it was really about a half a dozen that we were seeing down at the Sacred Heart lot. I know there's one six-wheel, it's a box truck. He's a carpenter, parks up off of Pine Street, Pine and Fayette. He parks up right where we're gonna put the spaces, is where he parks, and that's why I looked at it, because it is kinda secluded in that lot.
Sure.
I mean, I just want to make sure that we're comfortable in that, in trying to get rid of one problem, we're not creating another, you know? I mean, I'm sure you don't want to be calls to the neighborhood, oh, there's a commercial vehicle, and,
I
you know
agree.
what I mean?
I think it's gonna be an issue, as we've done, in this process when we changed it before. It's gonna be an issue of taking a look at it, see how things go. If we find that, oh, wait, there's 12 six-wheel vehicles and we have to add a couple
at
of
it.
spaces, then we mark those out. I did, I'm happy to work with the board and Scott and the town engineer, or anybody else to figure that part of it out. As well as, Brian, if we start to see major displacement where it really is, creating an unruly environment in a particular neighborhood, then I think we have to take a look at it. I have no problem doing that.
Okay, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Will? No, I'm not going to echo everything Brian said, but I did have similar concerns about that over the few months that we've talked. So I would at least, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, but I would, I'd like to set a timetable that we come back and even just have the chief come back in 3 months,
That'd be
6
great.
months, whenever, just to kind of give us an update, even
Sure.
before we even hear of something.
I think we work our way through the summer and fall, if that's okay with you, just before we come up to winter. It'll give us a good sense of things. A lot of people are away during the summer months, so it's
Fair.
really hard to gauge. Come September, October, we're gonna have a pretty good feel of exactly how things got displaced and whether they were displaced in a fashion that the community's comfortable with. If not, then we're back to ground zero, and we'll take another look at all of it.
And Chief, you're gonna have a little bit of a grace period where we get some signage up, no greater than 70?
Most certainly, we're gonna start to give people notice, so, we'll draw up
Warning.
notices in different languages, so people get the message
Okay.
that it's coming to be. I'll work with Scott, as far as markings and other things that have to be done. That's not really a big piece. The big piece is making sure that people are informed, because we don't wanna write tickets, so it's, I'm not looking to go out there and write a
No.
bunch of tickets.
And that we call it one of the least value-add things the police department can do, but at the same time, we know what can happen when it gets unruly or.
Right.
So I appreciate you taking so much time with this and looking at it in such great detail, your work with Jerry Moody and others, business owners, and this board. So thank you. Is there a motion?
I would move to amend Article 5, Sections 4A and 10A of the Milford Traffic Rules and Orders in accordance with the terms of correspondence from the police chief dated May 10th, 2016.
Seconded.
And not the June 20th, 2016, or you've got the?
That's
It's just an outline.
Okay.
That's- yeah,
You're
this
going
is
back
the-
to the
this is
memorandum.
This one's the actual.
Right.
All right, so that's been seconded. I'll also vote in favor. That's unanimous. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I'll work with Rick just to set a date where we'll come back.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, have a great night.
Thank you.
Is that your stack?
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right, that's all right. It's good.
I spread out everywhere. Come up this way.
All right, next we have a hearing for Chai Param, Inc., doing business as Chim Tai. Good evening. How are you? This is a public hearing, and with that, you've been notified that this board has scheduled this hearing for this evening. If there's anybody that would like to talk on the topic, I'll provide a time at the end of this discussion for that, so that the board may consider any public comments. Again, the premise is located at 196 East Main Street, is 2,502 square feet, ground floor space, commercial building in a shopping mall. The space is approximately 32 by 80. The premises has 2 front and rear entrances. Pursuant to Mass General Law 138, as amended, the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on said application Monday, which is tonight, at 7:10. We're running a little bit late, in room 3 of Milford Town Hall. You were also notified you had the right to be represented by counsel if you so choose. But you have a petition to transfer ownership, transfer of stock, let's see, and a change of directors. Okay, and for the benefit of the public here, your name is?
My name Nanchuli, last name Thanasit Papakun.
Okay,
And I changed Chim Chai Pilom to Chok Samrit Phon.
okay,
Yeah, because I need my sister-in-law go to be my partner.
okay.
So that's why I changed the name. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. With the application in front of us, I'll ask the board members if they have any questions or comments.
No questions.
None here?
I also don't have any questions. Is there a motion?
I will move to transfer the common victular wine and malt license as presented in the petition.
Seconded.
I'll also vote in favor. That's
Skip over-
unanimous.
Skip over an attempt on the names.
So we voted favorably, that's unanimous. And so I would contact the town administrator, the Board of Selectmen's office, in order to pick up any paperwork you might need.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome,
Appreciate.
and good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And for the benefit of the board, I know you have the documentation, but I also want to say it publicly that we asked for department head review, as is customary, and there were no outstanding issues, taxes, it's allowable use, and everybody from police chief, fire chief, and everyone else said there were no issues or objections. So. Okay. Next, we have town engineer interviews, and we're going to begin with Michael Dean. Michael, welcome.
Good evening.
Good to see you.
Yes.
I know
Thanks for having me.
you've got a great deal of experience with town boards and committees, so I'll let you begin. The process that I like to use is, we've got documentation, we've got your resume.
Yeah.
And you've already been through, for the benefit of the public, you've already been through a screening process.
Sure.
And it's to your credit that you're here as one of the finalists. But if there's something that maybe you'd like to highlight in the first couple of minutes before the board starts with any questions or comments they have, I'll give you that opportunity in the first couple of minutes.
Okay, sure. First, I'd like to start by thanking the Board of Selectmen for having me here tonight. It's a privilege and an honor for me to be here, at least I feel that way. This is also my second time around, so it also shows that I'm interested in the job and I value it highly, okay? Just some background for me is born and raised in the town of Milford, Mass. Graduated through the school system, Milford High, went on to attend Wentworth Institute of Technology, 4-year degree, Bachelor of Science. Obviously became a professional engineer, registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Also registered in the state of Connecticut as a professional engineer. Certifications, soil evaluator and Title V inspector. Through the years of working in civil engineering, I started working at the local firm Guerriere and Haldon, which I will refer to as G&H going forward, since that's what we call it. G&H since I've been in college, so been there like 28 years. Started working there out in the field, surveying, lowest position, rodman, and I've been able to advance up through the company structure to the current position as office manager.
Yeah, good story. I happen to note that in your resume, how you started there as a co-op.
Yeah,
So-
through co-op, yep. And through the years working there, I have extensive knowledge working in the town of Milford, around the town of Milford, and I've also done several jobs specifically for the town of Milford where I was the lead engineer as well. I could get into that, or we could
Well, let's
just,
see what the board has for
Yeah,
questions, but
sure.
I want to make sure
Yep.
we at least got the opportunity to let you walk through your history, your
Yes.
story,
Yep.
and some of the highlights, and let's see what the board members have. I'll start with Brian for this interview.
Mike, good evening.
good evening.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
I know that you've obviously got a lot of experience with projects in Milford, and you've worked on them. You're familiar with the community. What do you think we have facing us as the biggest engineering challenge right now?
I would say the biggest engineering challenge that I know of right now is the MS4 that's coming. It's already established. The communities have to file the next thing the way I understand it for the town of Milford, we have not filed the notice of intent yet. I believe that is the next step, that's the next big step, is to file that notice of intent with the EPA. I have experience filing notice of intents with EPA for the private sector. It's a matter of getting through that, the permit, the forms, filing it correctly, but that's absolutely, in my opinion, one of the biggest engineering components that has to be addressed moving forward in the near future.
And-
There are timelines, though, it
just
doesn't
gonna
have,
say-
everything doesn't have to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
You have to go methodically and hit the timelines, so.
I was gonna say, what are the timelines to get that?
Well, the notice of intent is 2017, September 2017, which is a
Okay.
notice of intent, which is a lot of information you have to put together
Yeah.
in the proper manner and submit with the EPA.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of information, but it has to be brought together in an effective manner dealing with the EPA. Also, following that is the stormwater management program that the community has to put together, and that's following a year later, I believe. And those are the two big components. There's also coalitions out there, like 28 communities are a member of one coalition. I'd look into that.
Coalitions for what?
Stormwater Management Coalition, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yep.
There's like 28 communities that are part of that. I'd like to investigate that, unless we already are on a coalition somewhere else. But if not, there is one out there. I'd like to, because that has a lot of information, a lot of resources, and I believe the communities have spent like, I think about $5,000 a community. There's about 28 of them in the Worcester, Central Mass. So I'd definitely look into that as well.
And you're obviously familiar with the planning and engineering department as constituted. What do you think the primary needs are of that department right now?
The primary needs to move forward and advance it, or to keep it going the way that it is now.
You're the town engineer, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're an outside engineer.
Yeah.
Working with that office, working with other offices throughout the community, seeing what they have, what they do. If you're asked to evaluate the Milford Office of Planning and Engineering, what do you think we need the most?
Well, it's a pretty big community, and there's only one individual down there as the town engineer, okay? There are other communities that are a little bit larger than Milford. They have DPWs, they have a full engineering staff, so you are limited to some degree as to what one person can do. I think you could probably implement some of the things that I'm used to managing it in the private sector. You could maybe implement and expand upon or more self-performance for some of the projects around town to save money. However, like I said, there is only one person down there, so I think you could implement and self-perform a little bit more. However, that takes software, AutoCAD, HydroCAD, you know, and I'm not even sure if the department has that at all. Plotters, printers.
Okay.
So without those tools, you can only do so much as well.
Okay. That's another interesting point. Do you see any technology needs that are wanting right now in that department?
Well, I wouldn't know for sure because I'm not there, so my plan would, if I was to be fortunate enough to be hired for that position, I'm first going in, I'm evaluating what's there, making sure I can hit everything at the highest level possible of what's already there, and then I would evaluate and to see how it can grow and how it cannot grow. Then we would evaluate what it costs to try to grow the engineering department. Is there a need for it? But if you don't have HydroCAD and you don't have especially AutoCAD and plotters and printers, it's tough to self-perform.
Well, I mean, you've
In-
obviously,
in the
you've obviously
engineering.
had a lot of interaction with the department, so what have you seen as a deficiency or a need?
I don't see a whole lot of deficiencies. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes through there. They're always efficient. They're always responsive. I've never really sat down and said there's a whole lot of deficiencies down there, to be quite honest. I mean, they
So-
usually take care of what we submit, and that's one of the great things of dealing with Milford. They're
Yeah.
efficient, effective, and move things through.
But, okay, so seeing that, in light of some of the things that you said, what areas do you see that we could specifically improve the department on? Is there some specific technology or software or resources?
Yeah, the software would be AutoCAD, plotters. I don't believe they have that, but I'm not 100% sure if they have that or not.
Okay. All right. So if you're named to the position, what's the first thing that you do?
I show up at work, go say hi to everybody.
Good start.
Yeah. Go say hi to everybody, introduce myself. I think I'm a pretty familiar face anyways. And talk things over with the town administrator. Make sure I have a clear understanding of what's expected of me. Evaluate the department. Continue to keep the department going in an effective, efficient manner. And then expand upon that as I evaluate the department and think that there's areas for improvement.
And how do you view the time commitment of the job?
Time commitment. I've always viewed a job as time commitment, whatever it takes to get done. I mean, you know, I don't expect to be down here 70 hours a week, but I can be here, whatever I need to be down at my job, I'll take care of that.
Well, you're aware there's a fairly large evening commitment.
Sure, that was discussed in our previous interview, yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, in addition to your regular, planning board, conservation commission, there are a number of special or ad hoc committees that past town engineers have been very, very valuable on.
Yep, not a problem at all.
Okay, all right. I think I'm all set. Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you. Will?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian hit a lot of really good topics. From there, I guess on my notes, going to the role of town engineer, to me, I also think of it as a very customer-centric position as well. There's no question that the three gentlemen that we're interviewing tonight, you already got through a professional level of screening, and you're all qualified. But I also want to make sure that, because I think what Milford has a good history of is having people in that office that handle themselves well, are accessible to board members and customers, both internal and external. I guess based on your, I mean, it's a very general question, but I guess based on your experience over the last 20 years at working at G&H and also interacting not only with Milford but other communities, how do you see yourself being the way you address customers, board members, the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator? I just think of all of us, whether it's a taxpayer or a resident coming in with questions, or you being a member of an ad hoc committee and having to deal with neighbors. Can you just tell me a little bit about how you carry yourself and how you think that position should present themselves and make themselves available?
Sure. So customer service in terms of dealing with the people that do business, so to speak, with the town of Milford, such as submitting plans, site plans, developments. As I mentioned before, my experience dealing with Milford is that they're effective, efficient. They review things in a timely manner. Projects get placed on the agendas fairly quickly. Things move through. So in terms of dealing with the customers that are doing business with the town of Milford, customer service, it's pretty easy for me to make sure I deal with customer service at a high level. I do it every day now for the last 15-plus years in a managerial position, other than just being an engineer working on your five projects and dealing with your 5 customers at one time. I deal with customer service every day, from the beginning of a project all the way to the end. Also, customer service dealing with, like you say, a resident that calls up. I think my personality is there. I believe I'm a people person, so my personality fits that. Also, I think it's proven, working through the structure of G&H from the lowest to the highest position up there at this point, I think that proves you work well with others. If you don't work well with others, sometimes advancement isn't always that easy. So I think there's proof there that I can work well with others as well. And dealing with all the people that I will be evaluating projects with and dealing with department heads, not a problem at all.
That's great, because I think those relationships are important.
Yes.
And obviously, I'm sure my colleagues do as well. I think that's obviously a necessity to being successful at the job.
Yep.
And I think being personable and being liked is something that goes a long way, especially in public service. Now, coming from the private sector, how comfortable are you with chasing grants and application process? If you're dealing with the EPA, whether private or public, is it pretty much the same, rules of engagement, so to speak?
Well, I do have experience working on projects actually for the town of Milford. That was one of the sample projects that I brought to my interview, submitted. I've worked closely with the
Can you talk
community-
about that for a second?
Yeah, sure. The Community and Development Office that doesn't exist anymore, I believe, with Susan Clark over the years. The block grant programs, I've done several roads with her and have put together technical information that has been used for grant writing as well. So I have done some work for the municipalities and municipal sector. I have a pretty decent understanding of how that process takes place. I got into the grant writing a little bit more with the phase 1, 2, and 3 of the Heights with Susan Clark. It started, you could see it got a lot more competitive for the money, and things really had to be, everything had to be very thorough and complete. And I can remember even phase 1, after the grant money came in, they wanted us to use pretty much an inadequate curbing up there for the town of Milford, which was to utilize the cobbles that were there and keep the historic look. And we realized that was an inferior product, and I can remember Mike Santoro calling me up, and I know it's just a curbing, but it was gonna eventually be a waste of money, so I get a call from Mike Santoro, and he says, these cobbles, I just don't think they're gonna work out, could you put something together that shows that why it's not gonna work out? So, rather than just making just a one-page letter about curbing, I really evaluated it. I think Mike was pretty impressed, saved the town. It was probably only about a $25,000 note, but it was better than putting $25,000 worth of inadequate curbing that would be breaking up, you know? So that's, everything I get involved with, I've always really taken a thorough approach and work hard, diligent, and just go at it, work hard. That's what I've always done.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Will. Mike, as you mentioned in your introduction, I know you were a finalist for this position before. You know, I frankly don't have a lot of new questions, but there's a couple of things I'd like to ask is, between Brian and Will, the number one challenges that Milford has before us, you've talked to. You've talked about customers. You know, that's important to me. That's important to this board, and it's certainly important for anybody to be successful in here. Certainly temperament, ability to work with department heads. I think you have some advantage in the sense that you've worked with all the department
Sure.
heads
Yep.
at some way, shape, or form. But talk to me about some of the projects that you've had and those that you're particularly pleased with and proud of over the course of your career that maybe didn't involve Milford, because my understanding is you've got a fair amount of plans already stamped that are in
Yep.
archive in Milford as a result of the work that you did with Gary Aaron Hanlon.
Yep.
But having said that, some of the other projects, maybe some of the big ones, and you don't have to go in great depth, I just want to get an understanding of the scope of experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've done all kinds of projects, municipal, commercial, institutional, industrial,
How big in
residential.
scope are we talking about?
I've designed subdivisions, 50-lot subdivisions in other towns, maybe even 70-lot subdivisions in other towns, residential subdivisions. I'm the
You work
primary.
with bridges, dams?
No, I've never
Okay.
designed bridges, no, that's more of a structural and
Yeah.
geotechnical, it's a little, it's civil related, but it's not,
Okay.
you gotta, it's kinda like a specialty.
Okay.
G&H doesn't design bridges, you know, so it's right in, I'm aligned with land development, stormwater management, I'm an expert in stormwater management, I've evaluated drainage areas, Stall Brooks, I know you said out of Milford, but 700-acre drainage analysis. But, some of the, I've done a lot of permitting over in Marlboro for Ken's Foods.
Okay,
They use me primarily for almost everything that they do. I'm the head engineer on that. I always handle that account. That's fun. Industrial, I kind of like being around the industrial plants. See a lot of other engineering aspects, the thermodynamics, the pipe and everything. That's fun. You know.
now, as a result,
all
I'm gonna,
kinds, though.
I'm not familiar with your work, so I'm gonna guess, and I've asked some questions that are outside of your scope in terms of bridges, dams, and that type of thing. We have some dam work coming up. We have a small bridge that needs to be taken care of, that we share with Upton. I ask those questions for a reason, and that lets us know, when we might use outside help. How familiar are you, would you say, with your background in terms of our stormwater management system? How much have you had to review capacities, do analysis?
Yeah, the understanding of the stormwater infrastructure in Milford, I feel that I have a pretty good understanding of, probably second to none, like I had just mentioned, Stallbrook, 700-acre drainage analysis I've had to perform. I was also the contact person, or the lead engineer for the Milford High School project, interior roadways and parking areas, and analyzed the upper portion of that watershed, the upper waters of Godfrey Brook.
Okay.
That's a 250 drainage area, and I analyzed that and hit within 300s of the floodplain elevation that was designed in 1970, able to save the town $100,000+ easily. I didn't even really carry numbers for mitigation and detention. I had to prove that to Mike Santora, because he wasn't willing to just have some of that development done without detention, but with phasing, and I'm an expert in drainage.
Okay.
Drainage analysis, hydrology, hydrologic analysis.
Well, I asked the question because I would agree with your comment that certainly one of the largest challenges that Milford has is the stormwater management requirements that the federal government is putting on communities in the state. And I say it specifically because there are some unique challenges that Milford has, being on the Charles River certainly is one of the challenges, a very stressed river basin. But I asked those questions because I just wanted to follow up and get a level of, get an understanding of how deep you could go with stormwater and stormwater management in town. And not always, I don't attend the planning board, I don't always look at the output of your work, so I have seen some of your output, by the way. Okay, I really don't have any other questions. The other two members have hit on the things that are important to me. Big challenges, and certainly customer skills, customer-facing skills are a big deal. But what I'd like to do is now give you a couple minutes to wrap up. And if there's things that we didn't talk about that you hoped had come up, or if there's a way that you want to close, please feel free to
Yeah.
take this time.
Yeah, thank you. So, really, I think what really does set me aside from the other candidates is the knowledge and the working knowledge that have of the infrastructure in the town of Milford. And I will do everything that I can to minimize outsourcing, cutting back on consultant work. Hopefully this MS4, I can save the town as much money as possible. And the work and knowledge, when an engineer gets into a project, a lot of people don't see, or not really that don't understand that, they just don't get into it that much, so they don't know all that intricate calculations and knowledge. And, 15, 20 years of doing that, it's pretty tough to just replace. And like Will had mentioned, everyone's a PE that's going for the job. We do have the ability to research and figure things out, so to speak. But that time that's really been spent over the last 15, 20 years, I don't think you just replace in 5 years of research and then really understanding. I mean, knowledge, I'm going to pick up a project that I'm familiar with. That increases my efficiency. I can put my time elsewhere. It's just, that's really what sets me aside, I believe, from the other candidates.
Mike, I just have one more question I forgot to ask, and I apologize. How long have you been a PE within the state of Massachusetts?
Registered PE since 2004 or 2005, I believe, right around that time.
Okay, and any other permits outside of the state?
No, just no.
Mass registered, okay.
Mass registered, Connecticut, registered in Connecticut. I
Oh,
said
okay.
that at the opening, yep.
Okay.
And in the state, registered Title V inspector, certified soil evaluator, and a notary public.
All right.
Whatever that's worth,
All right.
just in case.
Well, I appreciate it, Mike.
Good to have.
Hey, you never know.
And,
I walk around with that stamp all the time.
hang tight. I would tell you that I expect that the board would come up with a decision quickly, because it's obviously a need and a vacancy that we've had for a little while now. And the board has to make some decisions, but I appreciate your coming through and being a finalist for the second time.
I appreciate being here.
Thank you, Mike.
Any other information, let me know. I'd be happy to get it over to you.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Next, for the benefit of the board, we have Scott Salvucci. Hi, Scott. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We'll go through the same process, but I just wanted to note that University of New Hampshire grad.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a period of time I lived at the corner of Madbury and Route 4.
That's a good spot. A very good spot. A lot has changed.
Certainly a high-traffic area, but
Yeah, a lot has changed even since I graduated, so,
one of the many places I've lived
yeah.
over the years.
Definitely enjoyed Durham.
Yeah, it's a great campus. With the process I'd like to use is that what I'd like to do is give you a couple of minutes for opening comments, remarks. If there's anything you'd like to highlight, maybe there's something upon review in your own mind that you may have omitted that you want to bring to the board's attention. Then we're going to ask the board for comments and questions. And then towards the end, what we'll leave you is a couple of minutes so that you can wrap up. If there's something we didn't delve into that you're particularly you want noted,
Okay.
that would be your opportunity. I'll change it up a little bit. And, Will, I'll go to you first. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. I'll go to you for, thank you,
So,
just as I said.
well, I have over 10 years' experience in civil and environmental engineering with a concentration in municipal services. A lot of the technical design and contract management that I work on is for municipalities and state agencies. I would say it's about 90% of the projects that I work on. It's really helping towns and state agencies with design and contract documents and scheduling and budgeting for a variety of designs that really impact communities, such as stormwater management designs, drainage designs, typically in compliance with EPA regulations and state regulations for pollutant loading, water and sewer designs, and just culvert replacements, culvert assessments and repairs, stream assessments, and a lot of technical designs in those aspects, things that really towns are concerned with in those pieces. I also, a lot of the work that we do and that I work on are peer reviews for town committees and departments. A lot of peer reviews come in for subdivisions and commercial developments. That's something that I do a lot of, review those for compliance with bylaws, Wetlands Protection Act, and really present my findings to the boards and to the departments, and go as far as they need in that process with private developers coming to town and needing peer review services by an engineer. I prepare a lot of grant applications for towns, really to help them get the funding that they can for certain projects, whatever's going on in town, whatever types of projects they might need help in, whether it be a hazard mitigation grant, whether it be stormwater compliance, again with EPA, the new NIPD's permits come out for the MS4 compliance, and really just anything that might come up. I've received training in the Complete Street Mass DOT Complete Streets Tier 1, which helps really facilitate complete streets, meaning just transit vehicles, bus, pedestrian, making all that work in harmony, and there's just money out there for funding. So help on a lot of grant applications. And really just, asset management, capital planning, helping municipalities move through, what they have for assets. One of the questions that came up during my first interview talking with the highway surveyor, he mentioned, GIS, which is one of the software programs that's used to really catalog and keep up to date what the town owns and what might need repairs and how to prioritize that, and that's something that I do a lot of. And really just coming from a smaller consulting engineering firm, I would say that I've been exposed and been able to grab a lot of experience in just from start to finish in projects, really from ground up all the way through construction. So working with clients on even the start where proposals and scopes and qualifications, getting those pieces and budgetary items for what we can provide to the town. Then working through with the clients, the municipal clients that I have, the contract documents, the invoicing, scheduling, things like that, going through site assessments and field assessments for the project site, all the way through technical design, technical overview and oversight with junior staff, contract documents and bid documents and cost estimates, all those pieces that help the town award the bid for the construction project, and then all the way through construction inspection, working with the contractor, scheduling, keeping things on schedule and up to date, working through change orders and pay recs and finalized punch list items. So I feel that, all of the responsibilities that a town may have with regards to engineering, the different departments, a lot of my clients I work with are town engineers, DPW directors, conservation commissions, planning boards, highway superintendents, all the responsibilities that they have in their day-to-day basis that in regards to engineering, something that I help on daily. That's really what I do daily, and that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years is all those pieces. Yeah.
All right, great introduction, and I appreciate that background. Will, I'll go to you first.
Okay.
Again?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thanks, Scott, for being here. You touched on a lot of this, but just for transparency's sake, I generally ask the same type of questions to all the candidates. And I'm going to do it in the reverse this time because you touched on it. Obviously, in your work, and you've mentioned grant writing, or at least assisting those that need to from the municipal point of view. Can you talk about some more specific examples, or how comfortable you are with grant writing? I know, at least since even the short time that I've been on the board, our town engineer deals with FEMA, MEMA, MassDOT, probably a number of other agencies and entities that I'm not even remembering offhand. So if you could just touch on that, either in your current role, and then go into even what you think, or if you are named the town engineer, what that'll entail?
Yeah, so, grants are a big part of what really fuels a lot of the projects that a town can get completed within a year. So really, whenever anything might come out that we can see can assist a town, whether it be something that's mass works infrastructure, whether it be something that goes along with water or sewer drainage, we work with our clients on those pieces. Stormwater is a big piece, especially, with the new permit that's coming out. So really, working through, there's grants for 604Bs, which are really the assessment portion of the stormwater assessment of the watershed, and what can we find are the areas of that we can prioritize to really work towards, remedying. And then there's 319 grants that come up behind that, which are really the construction projects that the funding, there's a slight match for the towns, obviously, but really just getting that funding to, what kind of stormwater treatment facilities can we put in place that then will help comply with the EPA regulations and DEP regulations. And so really just working through prioritizing areas in town with the 604B, and then going to 319 grants, the next step, really getting that construction money, and really trying to help the clients and the municipalities find ways to work that match. And typically it's through in-kind services. So really, there's not even much money that comes out of the town's pocket when you can find those types of grants. You can just really use DPW forces and go in and do some of the site clearing, or do some of the just the tree planting at the end. Even some of the smaller tasks that really get there. Even some of the in-house documentation, just the paperwork, those pieces, those are the things that we help our clients work through, that really help them meet those matches. So I would say, the 319, 604B, those stormwater ones, are something that we've had some real success with, that I've seen through assessment, through the grant process, and through construction completion. So I would say that those are a bulk of what I help work on. And then there's, like you mentioned, DOT, the complete streets. That's somewhat new, and they're really just starting to train towns on that. And I had gone, just based on the nature of what I do, just to really help get a grasp on every little aspect of what's going on with complete streets, what DOT wants to see for submittals, dates of submissions, and really how they want you to prioritize what areas in town that you feel that when you might have a project come up, whether it be maybe an intersection improvement, what kind of improvements can you make to the complete streets, healthy transportation, and that those pieces would be funded through DOT. So those are aspects that are, it's still in the process, but that's another one that it's pretty exciting to be able to, get money towards pieces that the town would already look to probably fix up their sidewalks. They have to have ADA compliance anyways, and that's money that's out there that DOT wants to help with. So yeah.
All right, I'm going to change course here and just talk about something that's very important to me, and as well as my colleagues. And Milford has had a really good history of having town engineers that have made themselves accessible and didn't speak over people, but spoke to them, and just really had good customer service with all stakeholders and department heads and board members. And I think obviously, even in your current position, you've dealt with a lot of different town engineers. And I guess, first of all, do you agree with me that that's an important component in the position? And I guess, how do you think you would carry yourself or do carry yourself? I guess this is just more of a personality question than anything else, but I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think that I would be, and just even in my experience when we're out there and we're on a construction site and there's abutters at one of our projects, and we're there with the town, and they have questions and they have concerns from the very beginning. When we let them know, hey, there's a project that's going to start, it's going to be on your property, maybe we need a temporary easement, or maybe it's just really in the close vicinity that we feel we probably should let them know. It's really just the aspect of reaching out and just letting them know what the project is about, what the project goals are, why it's happening, and really just not getting too technical to the point where they feel overwhelmed. It's about helping them understand, because it's a project that is, in a sense, to benefit them, to benefit their town, to benefit their community. So it's really just laying it out there for them, answering any questions they have. If they have questions that might be better off assessed with more parties that might not be on site at the time, just getting their concerns, writing them down, letting them know that you'll get back to them, talking to the appropriate parties, and then getting back in a timely fashion. But I would say it's something that I've been comfortable with, and as long as you approach it, like you said, in the right way with the right mindset, then most of the times it goes as smooth as possible. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to go second this time, just make sure that all the questions are consumed prior.
Sure.
You've probably had the opportunity to work with great department heads within municipalities and not so great ones, great town engineers and maybe not so great ones. I want to follow up on something Will said, and when he talked about customer service, I'm glad the example that you used was a resident. But there are a lot of stakeholders, and certainly that resident follow-up is key. So being able to work with our residents is a very important thing for me, that folks have the right temperament and mindset to understand who the customers are. But if you're chosen town engineer, can you talk to me a little bit about, at least categorize for me, what you think the stakeholders are? How many customers do you think you have in a given week that you might have to deal with? So,
In a given week? I would assume that I would have a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails per day. And that's not something I don't deal with now. The inbox lights up and the phone lights up
but who
quite a
might
bit.
the various stakeholders be?
Who they might be?
Who's on the other side of that email or phone
Well,
call?
I think day to day, outside of residents, I think it really equates to a lot of the people that interviewed me through the first process. I thought that was a great, diverse group of exactly who you probably would deal with on a day-to-day basis. The town administrator, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Highway Super. Those are all the key pieces of where the engineering branches out to. Is it an administrative piece? Is it dealing with the environment and resource? Is it dealing with residents? Is it dealing with the public? Is it dealing with the construction aspects? So I would say that those four interviewees and their respective departments are key to what I would see daily. I feel that would be a good representation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are the developers and their consultants customers?
The developers and their consultants. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. That would be, absolutely, you would have to meet with, especially when I do peer reviews, talking directly with, I call them peer reviews. Plan reviews is just reviewing of the engineer that did the private development or the subdivision. So performing plan reviews of their proposed sites, talking with the conservation agent or the planning board or whoever I am contracted with through the municipality, but then also talking with the engineer directly, talking with them, talking through, some of the technical aspects that, maybe the conservation chair doesn't necessarily need to hear all the details of storage volume and pollutant pounds of phosphorus removed, but really talking with the engineer that prepared the plans. I would say that's somewhere that I feel that I have a strong grasp, just where I'm at in my career, just where I have a great technical expertise at this point, where that's where I've really gained a lot of experience coming through my company, and now at this point in my career where I'm getting, changing to project manager, I'm training and mentoring the junior level staff, and I really have a hands-on approach with them, and really showing them the most up-to-date software and modeling programs that the developers and their private consultants and those private consultants use. Those are the pieces that I feel that I can get right into the calculations and the plans, and exactly where are the design plans that this developer's presenting to the town, where are they coming from, what are they using, and I feel like that's something that I have a strong grasp on at this point.
In your review of the challenges that Milford has, what would you rate as its highest challenge
I would
from an engineering perspective,
Yeah.
a town engineer perspective?
Yeah, I think that something that comes up, and it's something that's growing with all municipalities, I would say, is the GIS system. It's that program. It's really inventorying all the pieces, whether it be miles of pipe owned, sewer, water, drainage. I know the water's private, but and then all the way to stoplights and stop signs and miles of just curbing and everything, every aspect that you can really inventory and keep track of. Those are the pieces that asset management that a town really needs to be able to prioritize what they own and when they should replace it, how they should maintain it. What kind of repairs can they do to avoid full-time replacement? Pavement is a big issue. If you let the pavement get too far, then the cost to repair and the cost to replace is just exponential to the point where you really you need to maintain these things. So being able to have that database that GIS provides is very important. It's cumbersome for towns to really create that and get that base, but once they have that is something that provides a great amount of worth to a town.
Okay. Thank you. And the last question I have is trying to get an understanding of how long you've been certified PE,
Yeah, so
specifically in the state, right? Because then if you have others, you can let me know.
yeah, no, I became a PE in Massachusetts this past year, and a PE in New Hampshire where I was living after college. So that was 4 years after graduating. So I've been a PE for 6 years now, practicing PE for 6 years.
And when did you receive your mass certification?
I believe it was January this year.
January this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Brian?
Thank you. Where is the company that you work for now? It's what, Comprehensive Environmental?
Yep.
Where are they located?
Well, when I first started, I moved back home from college, and I was living in Milford, and our company was in Milford. It was in the leased area off of the water company. So that's where I originally started. We moved to Marlborough, so that's where our company is now. But really, the headquarters is out of Merrimack, New Hampshire. So really, we're a small consulting firm, and it made it easy for a transition to, when I moved to New Hampshire to buy a condo for a few years. Yeah.
So when you talk about this work with different municipalities, basically your company or you are brought on as a consultant or a part-time engineer for these different communities? How does that relationship work?
Yeah, so It can start in many ways, based off of any number of aspects of engineering that the town may need. Because basically, I would say we cover a wide variety. So in my years, I've gained a wide variety of projects and experience on those projects. So it might just be an existing contact, it might just be networking, but really, or maybe even sending out an e-news, just kind of sending out really what it is, an email about, what this service is. Maybe there's something coming up like a grant or a new requirement brought down by DOT or DEP, and we just let people know and let the municipalities know, this is something that we are geared up for, and this is something that we can help with. So, personally, I put together an e-news for culvert assessments. Really something that happens and no one pays attention to until there's really a blowout of a road and there's a sinkhole or it's impassable. So it's just kind of one of those things where it was saying, hey, we can do these culvert assessments, let you know what is under your road, what's there now, what are you driving over your day? Is it great, or is it ready to fail? Put together something like that, and a municipality might contact us back and say, hey, what can you do? And really, it's just putting together a scope of work. Saying this is the process we'll go through. These are the tasks we'll complete for you. These are the deliverables that we'll present to you. And it just depends on how far the client might want to go. Then there's just is it a grant? Is it a grant program? They might want us to put the grant together for them, with the thought of, okay, if the grant comes through, you guys have done a lot of the back work, and you're really geared up to go and provide these services for us. So it could really just vary of.
So it's more or less project specific?
Yeah. The
And
scope of work.
what are some of the communities that you've worked for in this area?
Well, a lot of Massachusetts. So I would say Lexington, town of Lexington's one of them that we perform, and I've designed many, about a half a dozen culvert replacements for them. And like I said, it's really just from start to finish. It's from contract documents, or from the very beginning, scope of work, through design, through bid process, through construction, and all the pieces that I'm comfortable with. Lexington, East Bridgewater, Hadley. We do work in Auburn. Just really a variety of towns. Yeah.
Do you have any specific experience with building construction projects?
Vertical construction?
Yes, yeah.
I wouldn't say that I have a lot of expertise with vertical construction. We do, and I've helped design smaller water treatment facilities. So maybe something that's a manganese treatment facility or perchlorate treatment facility that's kind of an add-on to a water treatment plant. So not maybe a whole water treatment plant, but one of the projects that I worked on was a perchlorate treatment facility in Westford. And it was just really an additional bypass treatment. And we worked through all the site grading and the building development there, but never to the point of a large commercialized or industrial development site. It's more, I would say a lot of that is the private developers. And like I said, most of the work that I do is municipal, so it's maybe those small treatment facility housing units.
So in Milford, for example, we have a building that's currently used as a school, about 70,000 square feet. It's open to question as to what the eventual use might be. The building is probably, 50, 60 years old, something like that.
1918, actually.
Oh, longer than that, yeah, okay, so there's portions of it that are quite old. So now, if the town were to try to take a comprehensive look at that building, in terms of the infrastructure, utilities, and evaluate it, and maybe renovate it, how would you see your role in that kind of a project?
Well, I would say that sounds like a large-scale project, so I wouldn't say that it's something that maybe the town engineer probably has a lot of time to do exactly all those pieces, but I would say that's something that the town engineer would really sit in on, putting together the RFP and the RFQs for, bringing in a consultant. What are their expertise? How can they help us? Sitting down with the consultants and saying, this is our timeline, this is the schedule, this is our budget, these are the pieces that we need to see from you. I would think that would be somewhat of my role in those pieces, really working with a consultant just based on the magnitude of the project, and really the expertise of probably a structural engineer that you would really need.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a number of disciplines.
Yeah, electrical.
But
yeah.
you see a role in terms of at least coordinating,
Yes, absolutely.
perhaps overseeing.
Yep. Coordinating and scheduling and, yep.
Yeah. Now, I see you're on the Conservation Commission in Medway.
Yes. Yep.
So I guess and I take it they meet at night?
They meet at night. They meet second and fourth Thursday of the month. And we meet at 7:30, and we typically run until about 10:30 or 11, yeah.
So, part of the aspect of this job would obviously be evening meetings.
Yeah, that's something I'm more than comfortable with. I would say, volunteering my time to my community is something that I just saw as a good opportunity. And I think it just goes along with the whole, my background of just really municipal services and really just the idea of making sure the community is in the best hands, just as you are, and just really making sure that the expertise is there and helping as much as possible, yeah.
And I was pleased to hear you target the GIS because our former town engineer and our current town planner and the highway surveyor have advocated very strongly for that system,
Yeah.
particularly with the stormwater guidelines coming up and
Right.
how helpful that can be. And, that's a major issue in our community, whether or not we're gonna be able to go forward and get that kind of technology. But clearly, you see it as having value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that, those are some of the pieces that I feel like I can add value to this position by just, those are some of the things that I do right now. We are gearing up and really helping the municipalities understand, what are the steps, what are the deadlines to really get the ball rolling with the new permit. So there's a lot of aspects that just are too large for a municipality to handle in-house, and then there's things that can be handled in-house that maybe they don't understand they might do, and they might just contract out to a sub-consultant. I feel like those are the types of pieces, along with plan reviews, are where I can really add value and really keep things in-house and really perform in-house and handle myself, yeah.
And we also have some miscellaneous problem projects throughout the town in terms of dams.
Okay.
And a small bridge that actually is shared with the town of Upton.
Okay.
Need to be repaired. The dam has reached a certain point. Some of it, actually, it's been tackled, some of which you had alluded to earlier, in terms of some of the general maintenance was done in-house by our highway department, which reduced,
Right.
What we foresee as the cost. Would you have qualms about getting involved in those kinds of projects?
No, I would say that those are a lot of the types of projects that I really work on a day-to-day basis. I work with DOT and DEP and DER, Division of Ecological Restoration. They are one of the.
Well, I never heard of that one.
They're
I've been
within.
around a while.
They're within the Department of Wildlife and Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
It's the Division of Ecological Restoration. They're only about a dozen people, to tell you the truth, but they handle a lot of dam removal. They handle a lot of stream assessments, and actually I'm working with them right now on culvert training program, where we picked 2 culverts within Massachusetts, one somewhat low gradient in Spencer and one high gradient, meaning steep, very rocky terrain out in Ashfield, just to really kind of show the steps and the proper steps to go through when you're replacing a culvert to help meet stream crossing guidelines to really prevent flooding, help resiliency, within the storm events, and just really make the stream a healthy, flowing ecological connection rather than that disconnect that then really you'll find, and they, some of their ecological ecologists know a lot more than I do with the science aspects, but just the overall principles of once those organisms and those fish can move freely to the pond and up the streams and into their spawning areas and then back into the pond, that helps with nutrient removal, that helps with the fish and wildlife that keep these ponds, such as Milford Pond, things like that, from the biomass accumulation of where there's just so much overgrowth of all those invasives and things like that. So.
And I was very interested to hear you talk about the Complete Streets program, and it's good to see that you've got a working base knowledge of that, as that's just getting off the ground. As I find out about it, it seems like it's, a program that could have some real value in our town.
Yeah, and DOT is, really wants to give out money. They
With funding, right?
Yeah, they want to do these projects. They want everyone to, help meet those requirements of complete streets, healthy transportation.
It's a great concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Especially in urbanized areas and just downtown areas, things like that, the revitalization. It's really just, it's just money waiting to be used, and it's allocated, not even based off of population size, but each town does have the same value assessed to them, so they don't have to feel like they can't get much done if they're a smaller community, but yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
You
very
made a
much.
great presentation.
Appreciate that, thank you. Thank you
No,
for
no,
your time.
I can see why you're here. I know that Rick and the committee that was formed brought forward 3 people. I can see why you were one of them. Is there anything you'd like to say in a minute or two to close that?
I would just say that I feel that, over my career, I've been with the same company for 10 years. I feel that demonstrates a strong loyalty and a strong commitment to the job. And I would just say that, even though I'm willing to maybe leave that job, it's for something that I feel that this is a great opportunity. My hometown, having an opening for town engineer, reading through the responsibilities and the aspects of what the town engineer would need to do. It looked like it was tailored exactly to everything that I do in my daily day, and really just everything that I have been, working towards and gaining expertise and qualifications in. And so really, I think this position is an exciting opportunity to really serve the town that I grew up in, and really provide solid engineering expertise for decades and decades to come. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And good luck.
I appreciate it.
Stay tuned, because I suspect that our process will be relatively short. It may be as short as tonight, but it could be as long as a week or 2. But
Yeah.
we'll be making a decision shortly, for sure.
Understandable.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank
Scott.
you very much.
Great to
Thank
meet
you.
And
Thank you.
lots of luck.
Thank you.
Take care.
Running over a little bit, the next candidate is Joseph Calagione. Good evening, Joe.
Evening.
You've been here before.
In various forms, I guess, yeah.
To welcome you again. The process, if we call it that, is that we give the various candidates the opportunity to maybe introduce themselves, provide highlights, talk about some of the things that may not be clear in the resume, or may not even be in the resume that you want to talk to in the first couple of minutes. And then I'll ask my colleagues for comments, questions, and then we'll let you have the opportunity to close. So I'll ask you start, and if there's things that you'd like to highlight as we start, then please do.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come before you tonight. I'd also like to thank Rick and the committee for recommending me and moving my name forward, and also for the time that they put in order to do that. I know that can take up a bunch of time and is a tough thing to schedule, so I certainly appreciate that. I think, I know I'm the third person in tonight. I'm sure everybody that's come in is well-rounded as a civil engineer, so I don't think, and my resume certainly shows the same thing with me, so I don't think I'll spend time on that. What I'd like to highlight, and what I believe is something that I believe is part of this job and my career, some of the highlights that really present in terms of where I can help this board in the town of Milford. And the first is that I have a Master's of Business Administration. I have my business degree. I believe as this department moves forward, especially with the MS4 permit going forward and stuff, there's a lot of financial implications with that permit that certainly it's going to be this board's responsibility, but looking towards the town engineer financially as to how we're going to move forward with that. And I believe the fact that I have a business degree as well as being able to manage the department, I think speaks for itself. I've also managed, as you can see in my resume, a number of departments at various firms that I've worked for. I think that I bring a well-balanced public speaking knowledge to this board. Obviously, as a member of the planning board for over 16 years, I've had to sit on that side of the table and listen to people's comments and concerns. And in my position with various projects that we've moved forward to, I've had to make presentations. I've made presentations to the chief engineer at the MBTA, the chief engineer at Mass Highway. I've made presentations to various boards in Ontario and the Government of Canada. So I think that handling myself in the public is one of the areas that over the years I've grown much stronger in. Obviously, my knowledge of the town of Milford. And as we go through the MS4 permit, it becomes critical that you know the players in the town of Milford. And that MS4 permit, as we go forward, is going to be critical that we get everybody that's going to be involved on that. This board, the Highway Department, and Scott, the Parks Department, the School Department, and certainly the Facilities Manager at the School Department, and the Sewer Department are all going to need to be on board with that permit as it moves forward. Because it's as one of the things that we need to do over the next 7 years of that permit is the municipality has to show within themselves how they've tried to meet, especially the phosphorus removal portions of that permit. And so it's going to be important that the Parks Department is not using phosphorus on fields to fertilize it. It's going to be important, and Scott already knows that we need to find all of our outlets to the Charles River. And we've already started that, and town meeting has been gracious in their approval of monies to do that. And we're going to have to continue doing that as the rest of the permit goes forward. The School Department, because the parking lots at all the schools are actually very large, and we're going to need to see as an impervious area and the school building itself, how do we handle phosphorus removal at those locations? And do we? Is it someplace that we want to spend, and do we get the bang for the buck at those things? And obviously this board in terms of financing and how this all moves forward. And the other thing is Article 38 of the town's general bylaws is the stormwater pollution section of the bylaw, and that's going to have to be updated as part of the new permit. So this board is going to be critical as we move forward in that. My knowledge of working with contractors, if you look at my resume, the last 2 jobs that I've worked with have been forms of work where the current GLX project is a construction manager, project manager project, where we actually have the contractors working with us in the office. So I became very familiar with contracting, contractor requisitions, going through all of that type of stuff. The job prior to that in Canada was a 3P, public-private partnership. At the beginning of that job, the contractor actually worked for us. At the end of that job, we actually worked for the contractor. So I have a good knowledge of contractors. I know people like to bash contractors sometimes, but the fact of the matter is, if you get a good one, really all they want to do is get paid for what they did. And you need to be able to understand where they put money in and how they presented a bid, because it's always not a real clear thing, but you need to give them the benefit of the doubt of at least looking through that to try to get to a point where you can reasonably say, when you come to a change order, is this justified or not? And I've had a lot of experience doing that lately. I have a well-rounded civil background. I know probably everybody that's come in here has said that they can do drainage, and they can do probably highway layout. My background through a lot of different things goes to various areas of civil engineering. I've done traffic signal work before. I'm not a traffic engineer, don't claim to be, but I certainly do have a very good understanding of how traffic signals work. I have an understanding of how they can be made better. I believe that's an area where, in the town right now, I know the police chief does most of the work on traffic signals once they've been put in. I believe that's an area where the town engineer can certainly be of value to the police chief, and I would look forward to doing that. And finally, I guess, the other area is my commitment to the town of Milford. I've been a member of town meeting for over 25 years. I've been a planning board member for over 16 years. I've served on various committees in the town. As Chairman Buckley knows, I just served on the Middle School East Reuse Committee, and as on that committee and every other committee that I've served on, when I serve on the committee, I believe it's important to serve on that committee, and I tried to make every one of those meetings as I could, and I think Bill can certainly testify to that, because he was at just about every one of them that I was there, and I contributed to those meetings. So I've been a lifelong resident of Milford. I've never moved out of this town. My daughter now lives in the town. This town is very important to me and my family, going back over 100 years.
Okay.
So I think those are the things that are different with me than maybe other candidates.
Thank you, Joe, and I can attest to your diligence and thoroughness on the committee that we just recently served on. I'm going to take the opportunity to go first this time. You're currently Associate Vice President at, I want to say, AECom?
That's correct.
Okay. And you're right, your experience shows a very broad range of civil engineering projects and activities, rapid transit design, drainage design, roadway. So I can go through that list and go on for a while. You know, you mentioned the MS4 permit. Explain to me, and maybe help the community understand, what the significance of that MS4 permit is and how you related that to the high school, for example.
If you may. I actually went through, there's a couple things that I wanted to highlight, and I took the liberty of actually going through the permit itself.
Somebody left to water.
Yeah, I guess so.
Trip hazards.
So I actually highlighted the MS4 permit itself, and
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
so really the MS4 permit, there's two main parts for the town of Milford. There's a stormwater section of it, which is general pollutant discharge. But the more critical part for the town of Milford is the Appendix 4 of the permit. Appendix F of the permit. Appendix F of the permit is for the Charles River Basin. Speaks to phosphorus removal specifically. 80%, and this is a rough number, I've never taken out and actually preliminated it, but about 80% of the town of Milford is subject to Appendix F of the permit. The section up by, actually where I live, Jones Circle, Lower Reservoir, Asylum Street, in that area going out there actually goes to the Millers River, and then out the back way. So it doesn't go into the Charles River, and it never gets into the Charles River Basin, is not a function of the Appendix 4, the phosphorus permit section. The phosphorus removal section is difficult because it really looks at lowering the phosphorus levels in the Charles River. And if you look at what I've handed you is really what the town's going to need to go to due to the Appendix F requirements, so that by January 1st of 2019, the town must complete a legal analysis. And what that legal analysis speaks to is how are you going to monitor and how are you going to lower phosphorus in the town? Is it going to be by the Article 36 in the general bylaws? Is it gonna be multiple of things where we go into the zoning bylaws as part of the planning board issue and look at any future parking lots? Do we do phosphorus removal? Because right now we don't. We speak to quantity and quality of water only. We don't speak to phosphorus removal specifically in either of the documents. We may need to look at both of those. So we're gonna have to come up with a legal analysis of how we wanna do that. And then by 2020, the town has to come up with their funding source assessment. Where do we think we're gonna get money to do this work? How do we think we're gonna do that? Not spending any money, just looking at how we do that. And then by 2021, the town must define the scope of the phosphorus control plan and the phosphorus reduction requirements, how much are we gonna reduce, and what the allowable load's gonna be. That's speaking to how much phosphorus are we planning on taking out based on the designs. And actually, I just went to a seminar last week that talked to constructed wetlands, and they take out about 65% phosphorus removal. So it's things like that. How are we going to build those? How much do those cost? And what does that take out in total phosphorus load? That gets into looking at the school department, where you have a large impervious area. And in the school department, in one sense, a lot of it is directed towards controlled areas, so it works out well. You can take the water after it's been controlled in and bring it to into a wetland, engineered wetland, which is the key thing here, because what we need to understand is as we go downstream, these things get used up. So we're gonna put these things in. 5 years from now, we may have to go back in and do some new plants, pull out the ones that died, do whatever. So there's continued maintenance with all of this that we're gonna need to be aware of as we move forward as a town. So there's gonna be some costs involved in that. But once you get them in, at least you have an ongoing setup in requirement. And again, that's somewhere downstream, because this permit runs to 2022, and it doesn't require you to do anything until after that point. They're saying after that, you're going to need to start getting into that. So the Dilla Street site the town being approved money for actually puts us ahead of the game, because you do get, the one thing that's nice about this permit is this permit looks back to 2002. So everything that we've done, and the town has done a lot. I know the planning board has certainly tried to adjust our subdivision control laws for roadway widths and things like that. So everything that we've done, we get to take credit for going downstream. So I don't know, I hate to say we're ahead of the curve, but we're certainly aware of what's out there, and we're trying to make changes. The planning board, just a couple of weeks ago, we approved a plan at one of the condominium complexes to change the roadway width, and the fire department was okay with it, so that we could, again, reduce pavement, because that is one of the key issues with the MS4 that Milford deals with. And the other thing that I'd like to talk about, to a certain extent, with the MS4, seeing you did bring that up, was the fact that I have dealt with the city of Cambridge. And the city of Cambridge is not under the MS4 because they are, in fact, not a small storm system. So the MS4 is actually for small systems. Cambridge is in the lower Charles River Basin, same issues. In the design of the Green Line Station at Leechmere, we had to deal with phosphorus removal and designed a infiltration trenches to meet the requirements, Cambridge's requirements of phosphorus removal. And in Cambridge's case, they look to 100% phosphorus removal, which effectively, in order to do that, takes the first 1 inch of rainwater from all impervious surfaces and forces you to infiltrate that. So that was the system, one of the systems that I ever saw the design of that I'm familiar with and certainly have worked with. And Cambridge actually sets up a very nice, if you ever get on their website, actually has a very nice setup of how you need to move forward and what some of the bylaws that they've instituted that are very good in terms of going forward.
We've got a good handle, I think, on certainly one of, if not the biggest challenge that I think Milford will face in terms of cost. There are lots of challenges, threats and risks, as business people like to say. But let me shift gears because, and I appreciate the work that you've done and what you've handed us in terms of the MS4 permit. A big piece of this work this board has talked about over the course of the evening is customer relations, customer service. I wanted to get a sense of what you think that means. What's that mean to you? Why would we focus on it so heavily as a skill set required by the town engineer?
Obviously, the position reports back to you. We're your eyes and ears. We're also, if something happens out there, it's your fault through me. So I believe that it's certainly an area that you need to focus on, because it's a reflection of you. And it's a reflection of me as a member of the planning board. I believe that exactly the same. The people that you serve are your constituents. There's no doubt about that. They may not like the decision that you make. I've always felt from the time that I first ran on the planning board, I would make the decision that I felt was best for the town of Milford. As a town engineer, I need to make a recommendation to you that I feel is the best for the town of Milford. Not everybody may like that. I hope everybody appreciates that when you do that. But I think you have to give everybody the opportunity to give their point of view and to listen to that point of view and to try to the best of your ability, mitigate their concerns and their issues.
So who are the customers, you think, for the town engineer, and how do the requirements vary by stakeholder or group?
Well, based on all the people that I talked about at the MS4, I believe that the town engineer has to be a customer to all those people. First, they have to, they obviously have to be a customer of the citizens of the town of Milford, the people that make a call to the department, have an issue that's under the purview of the town engineer. This board, I would like to hope that as we move forward, certainly the highway department, school department, police department, all those people are constituents of the board, of the town engineer in that position. Certainly the planning board, certainly the conservation commission, the town administrator is an important person in a day-to-day role. So all those people are constituents to the town engineer.
Joe, the last question I have for you, how long have you had your, how long have you been certified as a professional engineer in Massachusetts?
20, 30 years now?
Almost 30 years, okay.
Maybe longer. It's been a while, I guess, now.
Any other states, just out of
Yes.
curiosity?
Maine and Vermont.
Maine and Vermont. Okay, thank you. I'll go to Brian next. Thank you very much, Joe.
Okay, Joe, thank you. I just want to touch on a few issues with you. You're aware of the role of prior town engineers on the building projects that we have throughout the town. Do you think that role has been a good one, appropriate? Is there anything you'd look to change on it?
I believe it's appropriate because I believe that the town engineer can serve a critical role on those. It's a varied buildings in most cases where there's varied disciplines. And as a civil engineer, in most of the jobs that I've had before, it's been the civil engineer's jobs to pull all those things together into a package. So I believe that the town engineer serves again in that role here to do that, and I believe it's appropriate. I think that you can get your most bang for the buck out of it by doing it that way. So I would certainly expect that I would be doing that. I would look forward to doing that, and I don't think I'd have any problems doing it. And I don't think I'd change anything. I don't know that this, certainly the building inspector has a role to play in that, but I don't think I'd change anything as to the way it's run in the past.
Okay. And then the other projects that are scattered about the town, the Louisa Lake Dam, the bridge that we have in part with Upton. How do you see the town engineer's involvement in those projects, and do you have any qualms or concerns about spearheading those and taking those on?
No, not in the least. I mean, that's the type of work that over the years at various points in time I've done as part of my position. The fact of the matter is the state has very little money to spend on roads. Most of the money that you see the state spending on is roads as part of a bridge work. So almost all the work that I've done has been associated with bridge work. I'm not a structural engineer. I have a very good understanding of bridges. So I have no problem with putting those together, understanding what somebody is telling us for types of bridges, whether I believe those structures are the correct type or not. I can do those types of things, but I'm not a structural engineer, but I would look forward to doing that type of work because I think that's normally the way the town has handled it, where someone else has actually done the structural design work. And the town engineer has overseen that. So I look forward to doing that. It's what I've been doing for a number of years. And the same thing with the dam.
How important do you think it is that the planning department gets up to speed with the GIS system, particularly in light of this pending MS4 permit situation?
Well, with the permit, the way the town has gone forward, that is critical, because we have chosen, and I'm not gonna say I was involved with it before, I probably would say it was the right decision, but we have chosen as our mechanism to go forward in the permit, effectively using, I believe it's an ArcInfo system that we actually use for the GIS. So if you look at the information that we've gotten over the past 2-3 years that I believe we've appropriated money for Scott, what that initial sum of money has done has been to take and locate on our GIS system all the catch basins. We're now in the process of trying to tie all those catch basins together into this is the system. And this is where the outlets are. And the critical part of the permit is we have to identify all of those outlets. So we've taken the GIS system and used that as our mechanism to finalize this permit. So we need to move forward with that on the GIS system in order to close that off. I don't think we want to go and reinvent the wheel now. So it's critical, and I think it's appropriate. I think it's a great system to use. I think we need to be careful. In the project that I completed up in Canada, we needed to find catch basins, drainage systems in that system there. It's not that easy to do. So one of the things that I know I would be doing, I don't know whether it's day one, maybe it's day two, is I want to take a look at that information and see how good it is when you're trying to connect those catch basins and where those outlets are, because it's going to be critical in the next phases of this, because we have to identify drainage areas, and the drainage areas aren't worth anything unless we know where the systems are connected. So I think it's critical. I talked to, when we had the initial interview, one of the areas that I think you could look at in terms of going forward and trying to take some stuff in-house is perhaps a GIS system can be as wide-ranging or as narrow as you want it to be. Maybe you only put the drainage system in. I don't believe that's the right way to go. I think that we need to expand.
That's kind of what I'm driving at, because I understand what you're telling me about the GIS, and it's been targeted and limited to the stormwater, but I know Vonnie and Larry and one of the previous candidates talked, very highly about, really getting an expanded system so that there are almost limitless things that you can put on there in terms of a town's inventory. And I'm just wondering, are we being penny wise and pound foolish by, targeting funds to do this specific GIS for the stormwater, but really kind of ignoring a much larger system that could, yes, do the stormwater, but also, I don't know, pick the streetlights or the just pick an aspect, because, and I don't know a whole lot about it, I just know what I've heard. It sounds like a very comprehensive, inclusive system that the planning department could use for a number of needs.
Yes, it is, it can be. And in the previous interview that I had, I certainly mentioned to Scott that everybody needs to get on board, and that's the town, but that's also, we need to get back to the utilities, we need to get to the water company, we need to get to the sewer department, because in order to make it worth the most money for the town, we need to know that the water company has a line out there that's 60 years old, and if Scott's thinking that he wants to take that road and redo it, then we ought to know that maybe the water company doesn't have it on their long-range plan right now, but you know what, fellas, you better put it on there, because you're not gonna get to open the road up again for another 15 years. So if you have all that information, you can just click on it and find it. It's a heck of a lot easier. It's the same thing with Comcast, Verizon, all of their stuff, double telephone poles, any of those types of things. But you need to have the ability to put that stuff on. There's a couple of ways of doing that. One of the ways is that we can do it the same way that the stormwater was done, where we hired somebody out and had them effectively add layers. Okay, we want you to add this type of layer, we want you to add this type of layer. The other thing that I had talked about was that's an area where a co-op, depending on the type of information, is a great job for a co-op to come in. We can take a co-op, certainly under my auspices, to go over and say, we want you to add all the signage in the town. We want you to take some of Scott's pavement management stuff and add that on too, because most of the students coming out of an engineering program now have a basis of understanding of various GIS systems, and the one that we use is quite common, so I would imagine that they would probably have that one. So that's the other way that you could do it. And I think going forward, I think it's gonna be critical to the town and to the engineering department, because we are somewhat limited in the department. It's a one-person department, and I think that those types of tools being available to the engineer would help them serve the constituents of the town.
So that leads me kind of to another point, you know, and you're obviously familiar with the office. What do you think is the most crucial need that we have in that planning and engineering department right now?
Well, obviously, I think we need to get ahead of the MS4 permit. So I think that is the most critical thing in that department. We need, with Bonnie being gone for a few months, we've lost a few months of speed in going forward. And there's a number of groups that meet on this permit. I think that the town engineer that's appointed needs to get involved with those things almost immediately. I think we need to try to figure out the roadmap going forward. There's time. It's not that it's critical. If you look at the dates, we've got a year or so, but a year goes by quickly, as you know. And so those are the types of, that to me, I think is one of the most critical things. Unfortunately.
So project specific, I understand that. What about in terms of resources, technology? I mean, what do you see that can be improved in that office, and what would you advocate for? What would you like to see happen in terms of greater resources, I guess?
I think probably the most critical thing is making sure that we have access, that the computer system is able to function with the GIS system that we envision. Because I've tried to load it. I'm not a town employee per se, so there are actually layers on that GIS system that I don't have access to. But it takes a while to load that up. If those computers, and I've never sat at Bonnie's computer or Larry's computer, so I don't know, but it would be critical to me that network and that system works so that those things are easily accessible. We don't, in generalities, we don't do a lot of pure engineering in that department, so having the latest version of AutoCAD, to me, is not, town's resources are limited. And I don't know that that's the most important thing, but I think you want to make sure that you have a computer system and a GIS system that works and functions so that you get the information up as quickly as possible. So I would say, based on my understanding of the department, that would be the area that I would look at first.
Okay. And I take it you don't have any problems with the nighttime component of the job, and you've never gone to a meeting at night, have you?
No, I've never gone.
So
No, I
you obviously have an understanding of that commitment and
yeah,
that type of thing.
that certainly doesn't bother me in the least. As you can see from my resume, I'm either driving in and out of Boston right now or Chelmsford, so coming down here from Jones Circle is an easy haul.
There you go. And I see from what you handed out to us on the second side, it's also, looks like some observations that you made on the 40B site walk.
That wasn't on the sidewalk. I reviewed the documents that were posted on the town's website.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, obviously, hitting the ground running is important, and that's one of the things that faces us almost immediately, unfortunately. There won't be a heck of a lot of time to comment on it. As a planning board, I'm not gonna take, a huge amount of credit. As a planning board member, I felt I needed to do that. But I also think it's important to the town engineer, and that they're more engineering comments than strictly planning board comments. But they,
Well, the town engineer, is gonna be a huge resource to the zoning board as they work through this comprehensive permit.
I would expect that, and that's why I'm saying that is certainly not a town engineer's all-encompassing list. That was Joe Calagione looking on it, over the weekend and pulling it up and having some deep concerns about certain areas of it that to me would need to be addressed, especially as they affect the pro forma of the application. And also, what's critical in it that isn't really clear right now is the sewer, and whether the town ends up having to pay for upgrades to a sewer system that we had no plans on doing and certainly don't have budgeted. That's critical to us and critical to the planning board, and would be critical to me as a town engineer, even though at the end of the day, it's gonna be a sewer department's
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Joe. Actually, a lot of the questions got mentioned, but I guess that's
Welcome to my world.
me going last. But the one thing I'd like to ask about is whether in your current role or past roles, or whether assisting customers, what's your experience with grant writing? Obviously, or the year I've been on the board anyway, we've heard Vonnie always talk about, and Scott, going after FEMA, MEMA grants, MassDOT, whatever they can get. And I know grant writing is an entirely, can be a unique field for someone. If you can talk about that a little bit, or
Yeah,
or what your comfort level
I've
is.
done it at various points along my career. I was involved with the full funding grant agreement for GLX project, which,
God love you.
yeah, that's probably something I just assume. But, I mean, we were responsible with pulling together the full funding grant agreement. Certain sections of that came from information that was out of the civil engineering department of that. I helped with the writing of the initial grant with the province of Ontario and the Canadian government for the York Rapid Transit plan that's in my resume. I've had various, when the town, prior to the town submitting the community development grants, I had looked at a few of those and gone through those in just terms of overseeing, not overseeing, but just looking and making comments, because people had asked me if I'd be willing to do that. So I've done that specifically for the town, and I've done grant writing throughout my career for various other types of projects. None specifically with FEMA, although I am familiar with the FEMA grant and the issues that we're having with the culvert replacement, and certainly writing in terms of all the things that I've had to do and all the projects that I've had, and some of the major projects that I've had. Writing grants is not something that I'm afraid of doing.
And my last question or comment, Bill touched on the amount of customer service and, dealing with all the stakeholders and everything like that. I guess, how do you see your role or the role dealing with all of the different boards? I mean, even obviously the planning board, which you're very familiar with. But if you could just talk about that briefly, just kind of how you see interacting with, whether it's the zoning board, the Concom, and obviously your planning board.
Yeah, I think the distinction and the differentiation for me is that the town engineer has to take a look at the zoning bylaw, subdivision control law, the bylaws of the town of Milford, and make their comments and points to that. It's not a position where you're making things up or you want to do it your way. You need to do it based on what the requirements tell you. And so my recommendations back to every one of the boards would be, they needed to do this, and this. They did this, and this. They didn't do this one to full requirements. They said they couldn't because of this, and this, but you need to make a decision whether that's okay or not. But I think that's the town engineer's role, is to inform every board that they come back to that's asking a question. How does it fit within that? Or if it's a general question, we're going to redo Main Street from Water Street to the hospital, what are the implications of this as we move forward? Professionally, what are the implications? And it's my job to list those implications to this board, to Scott as he moves forward with the grant in terms of trying to get Mass Highway on board to do that. So that's how I try to do those, and really dealing with people in, the citizens of the town of Milford. It really doesn't stray much from that. I think that that's the job of the town engineer at that point, is to say, these are the regulations of the town of Milford, this is why this was okay, this is why it isn't, what are your issues? If we can deal with those issues while still not changing this, then that's great. If we can make you happy along the way, but at the end of the day, we still need to meet X.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Joe, we'd like to give you, a minute or two to wrap up and close on anything that maybe we didn't ask or that you want to make sure is highlighted.
Well, I think my experience, I think I provide, and I've been through planning board, through working with Guerriere and Howland, I've been very familiar with the past two town engineers. I truly believe that, and I appreciate both those people tremendously. I truly believe that I can offer this town an opportunity to do some things that we haven't done and to strengthen that department from where it's been. Between my business background, my traffic background, my commitment to this town and all the things that I've done, I think we can really do more than what we have and help the department and help the town of Milford at the end of the day, which is the most important thing to me.
Okay. With that said, I would hang tight because I'm guessing within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, we'll have had a decision. It could be as early as tonight, or it could be a meeting away. But good luck, and thank you for coming through this process and being a finalist.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Good night.
Nice
Good night.
job. So before I jump to the town administrator's report, first I'd like to give Rick some feedback. It's my opinion that I can see why all the candidates were finalists. Some are repeat candidates. Certainly, in the selection that the committee worked with, Rick, they gave us a broad experience set. Some with maybe less experience, some with a great deal of experience, some with a great deal of experience in certain aspects, and some with less. But I think it's certainly, it's my opinion that one of these candidates can certainly do this job, and it's up to this board to decide which of those, because again, I want to let you know I appreciate the work that you did with the committee. I want to thank Scott, I want to thank Bob Buckley, I want to thank Pat Kennelly, and anybody else who had a hand in making sure these three finalists came here. With that, what's the pleasure of the board? Is there?
Mr. Chairman, let me just concur in the great work that I think the screening committee did in willowing down the field to bring three very excellent candidates before us with very particular strengths and areas of expertise. I certainly learned a great deal tonight from these candidates in some areas. I don't know that it's an easy decision, but I will present a motion for the board's consideration. Again, we had three excellent candidates, but when I try to look at the level of experience in the breadth of the projects that our town engineer has become and will continue to be involved in position-wise, and the familiarity with what's going on in the town of Milford and also the planning and engineering department, to me, I think Joseph Calagione would be the best choice for the position, and I would move to appoint Mr. Calagione to the position of town engineer.
You know, I can certainly see why, from his broad experience. With 38 years of experience, he's currently associate vice president at his firm. I do understand your motion. Let me ask, is there a second? Not hearing us. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, there isn't a second.
All right. I'm not hearing a second. Is there another motion on the table that the members would like to make?
Yes, I paused because I just want to do some thinking here. I guess I'll mention too that all three were very impressive. What struck me about Mike Dean was that all of his 20 years, majority had to do with Milford projects. I like that his familiarity with the town hall, with the office, So I guess my motion is for Michael Dean. I wish I could appoint all three of them, and I don't generally say things like that. But with me, I'd have to say that most of his experience is here, and he has his stamp on a lot of Milford projects. And I think another candidate had a lot more experience, a lot different experience. And then another candidate had a lot less. But my motion's with Michael.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I could see a motion for either, certainly Mr. Salvucci at,
Very impressive.
very impressive young man, 10 years in the business, 6 years certified in New Hampshire. Unfortunately, much of the work is that his company is doing and that we need familiarity with. He's got less than a year of certified PE in Massachusetts. I can see certainly Mike Dean being a successful candidate. He was a finalist the last time. Is there a second?
No, I won't be seconding that motion.
All right. Not hearing a second, I'll second Michael Dean. And I can tell you, this is an extremely difficult decision. And, probably the thing that strikes me the most is small office business. Because, let's face it, if somebody's coming from a big office or high-level senior position, so this is a one-man show. Today it is. Today this is town engineer with no staff.
Well, Mr.
So-
Chairman, everything coming down the pike, I don't know if it's going to be that way for much longer.
Right, and I don't know that we can survive that way going forward much longer. Bonnie made that point. So most certainly, I understand that, but I think it provides the right balance, and I'm prepared to second that as I have. With that said, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? I'll vote in affirmative. You
I'm opposed.
opposed?
I'm
Okay,
opposed.
you're opposed. All right, with that, that's a vote of 2-1 for Mike Dean. And again, thank you, Rick. Thank you to the committee, and please, if you could, drop them a note. Thank them.
Most definitely.
For these candidates. Very hard decision. All right. Next, we have Town Administrator report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was asked to follow up on the closing of former Archer Rubber plant. I spoke with a number of individuals. First, Deputy Fire Chief Mark Nelson. He informed me that all precautions are being taken. The sprinkler system remains operational, remains monitored. If the fire alarm or the sprinkler system activates, the fire department receives a call automatically from the alarm company. The gates and doors are locked to prevent access. The fire department has access to keys to gain entry to the building if needed. Boilers are off, hazardous materials have been removed. I also spoke with the police chief. He informed me that the officers conduct daily directed patrol checks of the entire area on all shifts. Finally, I spoke with the facilities director for the plant. He informed me he is still at the building at least 3 days per week, so there is a presence there. He did estimate, they were asked about employees being affected. Towards the tail end, there were about 65. Obviously, given ample notice prior to its closing. We all do know, though, that prior to that, in prior years, there were layoffs. So I'm sure it's more than that, but I don't have a specific number. As to the future of the building, they're still discussing the future of the building. There has been some talk of raising the building prior to the winter months, but nothing definitive at this point, so.
Do you have a timetable for that decision process?
I don't, but he informed me that he would follow up with me because he did not have that information.
All right, maybe that would be the question that.
Yeah, yep.
That we follow up with to find out what the timetable is for decision-making.
Just a
Thank you.
couple of smaller points. The treasurer's office, we're gonna begin a small project there. When we reorganized the municipal finance department, the reorganization resulted in one of the employees being in a windowless, kind of a cave. So we're gonna do a small project there to install some glass windows, give her some visibility, some light. It'll probably start this week. It'll be a quick project. The office will remain open, and it'll be,
Okay.
you know, business as usual. You just may see some boarding up. They take the windows off-site.
As
once
it's
they
in
do-
transition.
Once they do the dimensions, just so people don't get unnerved, that the business will be conducted. And then the final thing I want to remind everyone, with the July 4th holiday coming up, the next Selectmen meeting would be July 11th, most likely, depending on everybody's schedule. So that's all I have right now.
Again, if folks could get back to Rick on their availability for July 11th, that would be helpful. I know this is the time we try to work through, you know, personal vacation schedules, at the same time administer the town's business. So giving Rick as much notice as you can, if you know it, is helpful.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just have, Rick, I have one question. Probably not, because you probably would have mentioned it, but did the facilities director at Archer Rubber talk anything about any environmental impacts at this point, or anything like that?
He did not. I can follow up with him.
Okay, yeah, I mean, obviously, whenever you hear back about them raising the building, I'm sure that's when it could potentially be an issue, but. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's the town administrator's report. Any questions or comments for Rick?
All set, thank
Okay,
you.
And you've gotten yours answered. Thank you, Rick. Now, under old business, we have town administrator, local building inspector appointment. Rick, if you could introduce this.
Yes, just briefly, the position was advertised in the Daily News on April 29th. We posted on the town website. The building commissioner also posted on his professional website for building commissioners. We did get 5 applications for the position. John and I then reviewed the applications. We determined that 4 of them we would interview. We did interview 4 individuals. One withdrew after the interview, which is interesting, but he did. After reviewing the applications, we are recommending to the board the following 3 people: Matthew Marcotte, Scott O'Neill, and Peter Schuler. They are all Milford residents. John has some professional knowledge of all of them, since they are in the trades. It is his position and mine that all of these have the necessary background qualifications and, you know, work history needed for the position. So with that, we would look to the board for a decision, but all of them certainly, we believe, can fulfill the duties and responsibilities that are required of this position.
How would the board like to proceed? The screening committee, again, did their job. Looks like the candidates that we have in front of us that remain, 3, certainly appear qualified and are recommended to be in front of us.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion, looking over the resumes that we have and the memorandum from the town administrator, I would move to appoint Peter F. Schuler to the position.
Okay. Is there a second? Not hearing a second, is there another candidate that somebody would like to make a motion for?
Yes. I would like to make a motion for Matthew Marcotte.
That's also who I had as my first. And realizing that Mr. Schuler had a great deal of experience, it just, my rating system, the way I thought through it. So we have I'll second that motion for the record. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? You in favor?
I will vote in favor of
Okay.
that.
So that's unanimous, Rick?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you, Rick, once again.
Thank you.
Fees for farmer's brewing permit. We had some discussion at the last time. It was recommended $500 from town administrator. Is committee ready to move forward with the additional information that was provided?
Was that the recommendation?
Was it 500?
Yes, that was, yes.
500?
Based it on 1/2 of the wine and malt retail package store.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out, so where do you,
Hard to place.
where do you see that fitting in on the scale? I don't,
I saw it as somewhere a little bit less than a wine and malt retail package store license, so kind of trying to fit it in.
Yeah.
There,
Well,
there's no exact science to it, but
Well, I mean, and refresh my memory, but there's gonna be a serving room there also?
yeah, there'll be some serving.
tasting.
A
It's kind of
tasting room,
tasting
so
and-
there'll be service on site,
There'll be some service on site,
and
that
then
is
there'll
correct.
be distribution
There'll be distribution
to different
to
places.
different, maybe local restaurants, for example, places like that. Again, just.
I mean, I don't know, as I looked at this scale here, I think it's awfully difficult to try to put it less than the all-alcoholic seasonal club license.
Okay.
I mean, personally speaking, I think that if, and again, I'm just looking at the grid worksheet and trying to keep it fair
Yep.
in the sense of what's out there, to not engender any ill feelings. But I mean, when I think about what the seasonal club is, and I look at that number, I think that this one would have to be comparable.
And let me tell you what my thinking was. They're more of an operations function in the manufacture of the product. You know, we can talk about the tastings. You know, everybody distributes a product they make. And I worry, and the more I look at this, and Rick, this is enormously helpful. This is the first time in a long time I've seen this schedule. I'm not sure if I use some of these other numbers, I'm not sure of the cost basis for which we charge.
Well,
And I'm not sure of the cost basis. I realize that it's been historical, but I think it's time, I think it would be a great time to revisit this, because if I'm not clear about the cost basis, I'm not sure the other members are familiar with the cost basis, but they are what we've approved over the years. And maybe that's in light of what other communities, and our benchmark for other communities, what they're charging. Or if there's a real cost basis for it based on how much effort goes into licensing these establishments. Right? I don't know, so I wanted to throw that out there. But I don't look at this so much as a retail package store, and I don't look at it as a serving facility. It's neither, it's really, its primary function is manufacturing, right? It's manufacturing a product. But this makes me want to delve deeper into the cost basis for each of these charges, and I want to say this. In light of, Rick, our 1.4, 1.5 times the tax rate. So when we benchmark, if we're using that as a cost basis, or a sanity check, how many of those communities charge so much in taxes at the same time they're licensing these facilities? Because I think there ought to be some consideration for that when we look at these fees. And I brought up the discussion as it related to the craft brewing for this reason. Some of these don't make it easy for businesses to do business in town. And so, you know, I think that's a worthwhile discussion, and I'm afraid to use, or I don't want to use these numbers as some of the cost basis for that. That was my thinking at the time, and this confirms it, actually. I don't know, Bill, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is the first time that I'm seeing the schedule like this. I think if we want to, I mean, I would definitely support looking into this greater, and to whatever detail you see fit. I think that's probably a healthy thing to do regardless. As for tonight, unless changes are made, but I think we should probably spend a little bit more time on it than this evening. I was comfortable with Rick's recommendation. Actually, my only thing I was gonna ask is because the licenses expire December 31st, and we're already halfway through the year, that whatever the fee is, that we cut that in half until the end of the year, because we're just gonna charge them all over again in full in December. So that was my thinking. So that's a
So prorate it?
prorate it.
That would certainly give us some time. Brian, any thoughts?
Yeah, what's the practice been in the office, Rick, in terms of prorating when a license comes on,
We have
Mid-year.
prorated, especially if we're closer to the renewal.
because a lot of towns don't.
Yeah, I don't think you
A lot of towns don't. You could get your license in October or November, pay the full fee, and then you're gonna have to pay it again
Yeah,
for the
no,
following year.
we've prorated, it
Yeah,
just
I know
seemed
that,
to
yeah.
be
Oh, that's,
more
that's
equitable.
great. Yeah, because I'm sure you don't have to, so.
No,
that's,
in
And I'm
towns,
glad we do.
in towns that I've done licensing for, they don't. So Milford does that, but, I mean, I don't know, when you look, I mean, certainly, I think if you're gonna evaluate the fee schedule, then it's like anything else. You've gotta survey similar communities and see what they're charging. My experience, limited, with the all alcoholic common vic mostly, is that we're on the low end of other towns.
I wonder what our cost basis is, though. You understand what I mean, why I'm asking
Well, the
that?
idea behind these is to compensate for the added work that occurs.
Right.
Clerical, which, is a lot in the selectman's office, to process these licenses. No, there's no question. I mean, you know, no, I mean, you know what it is in November. It's a mess. I mean, it's an absolute mess to try to keep track of this stuff. You've got to track down a lot of these owners. A lot of them don't bring the fees in at the proper time. We're chasing these people down. So it really ties up the office. I mean, I don't know, Rick, you can tell me better. I think it ties you up for the last couple of months of the year anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, Gene does a
so
lot of great.
Traditionally,
respect.
throughout the Commonwealth, these fees are put in place, I guess, to try to offset some of that administrative cost. But, I mean, it's like anything, if you want to revisit the schedule.
I'm just wondering how
then
many of those are
survey-
dual tax rate.
Survey other
communities.
communities. Survey other communities and see, I mean, the taxes, not all the time, the license holder is the real estate owner.
I understand.
So it's not necessarily a one-to-one match. But I mean, for purposes tonight,
Yeah.
I don't know that we could ask, a nonprofit seasonable club to pay more than, a for-profit business. So I would support a fee of $1,000, prorated to whenever the application is put forth, because I think we need to get going on that, right? They're actually in place, they're applying, and that's something I think we need to act on.
I don't think there's anything time sensitive, right? If there's no fee, there's no fee.
Well, if the board made that determination that for this.
Well, it
yeah,
doesn't have one, and it's got
fee's
the
not-
applicant
yeah,
already
the-
approved.
The fee's not in place.
So, I think notwithstanding the single applicant that's already been approved, I don't know that it's time sensitive. I understand your point, though. And so the problem I have is I have in conflict two separate proposals. I have one supporting Rick's recommendation at $500 prorated, and I have your suggestion at $1,000.
I thought Rick's was $1,000.
No, it was 500. I made
Okay, I'm
it based
sorry.
on the 1,000.
So
Yeah.
if somebody sets out a motion and it's seconded, we can move along.
I would move to set the fee at the same as the nonprofit seasonal club rate,
Okay,
$1,000.
That'd be 1,000, right? Yeah.
I was, well, go ahead. I will let the discussion go
Brian,
forward.
would you agree that to prorate it?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna second that with,
Absolutely.
knowing that's prorated to the original, amount that Rick presented.
Okay.
And with hopes that we look at this fee schedule and, whether we come to a different schedule or the same,
Okay,
I'd like to see that done, but I'll second, I'll support Brian's motion.
that's been seconded. I wanted a lower fee than 500. Now I look at this and want to understand the cost basis. This is something that maybe Zach's office can look at.
Okay.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? We have 2 in favor, 1 against. That's a vote. Okay. Any old business by the members?
I don't have anything.
Old business?
No, thank you.
New business, we have the annual appointments or reappointments. And that's quite a stack. We're gonna be here a little bit. Well, here, let me skip this.
Actually not. I mean, most of it is applications. The
That's
actual
true.
positions are.
That's true. Well, it depends
fairly-
where the board goes. So appointments, reappointments. let me make the motion for appointments or reappointments for the following individuals. Rochelle Thompson, Animal Control Officer, 6/2016 to 4/30/17. Keith Haynes, Assistant Animal Control Officer, 6/2016 to 4/30/17. Leonard C. Oliveri, Fair Housing Director, 6/2016 to 6/30/17. William Toohey, Emergency Management Director, 6/2016 to 6/30/17. George Cleveland, Deputy Director, 6/2016 to 6/30/17. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I'll also question, is there a reason why Rochelle and Keith only go to April 30th of next year?
Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Go ahead, Gene.
Go ahead.
This
We
shows
know
you
there's
how
a
much she
story behind
does.
I don't know.
No, it's always been like through the state.
Oh,
You know, like every year we have to apply to the Department of Agriculture, you nominate for animals.
Last meeting, I think
Okay.
that's what we
So it's
did,
in
yeah.
April.
Okay.
Okay.
The-
okay. Hey, I'll second it.
Okay, that's been seconded. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Commission on Disability Harold Rhodes, 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Dino D. Bartolome's, 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Julie Gonzalez, 6/2016 to 6/30/19. That's for the Commission on Disability. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Yeah. That's unanimous. Community Use, J.E. Macklow Esquire, 6/2016, 6/30 to 6/30/19. Leonard C. Oliveri, 6/2016 to June 30th, 2019. William Fertitta Jr., 6/2016 to 6/30/19. That's a
I'll
motion?
second.
Okay, seconded. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Conservation Commission, Joseph P. Zakili, 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Paul Braza, 6/2016 to 6/30/19.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yep.
That's unanimous. Council on Aging, Francis Small Esquire, 6/2016, 6/30/19. Police Chief Thomas O'Laughlin, 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Edwin Roth, 6/2016 to 6/30/19.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Yep.
Yes, a motion for Fair Housing Committee, Leonard Oliveri, 6/2016 to 6/30/17. Alfred Sanacandro, 6/2016 to 6/30/17. Maria Valenka, 6/2016 to 6/30/17.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Yep.
That's
Yes.
unanimous.
Yeah.
Will, you want to take over Finance Committee, start there, work your way through a few?
Make a motion from Michael A. Schiavi from 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Aldo L. Chaki, 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Michael Soers from 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Charles J. Mikulozovich from 6/2016 to 6/30/19. Alberto A. Correa, 6/2016 to 6/30/19.
Seconded. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Geriatric Authority of Milford, Joseph C. D'Antonio from 6/2016 to 6/30/19, and Salvatore P. Semino from 6/2016 to 6/30/19.
Seconded.
All those in favor? That's unanimous.
Historical Commission, Anne Lamontagne from 6/2016 to 6/30/19, Robert Samiajo from 6/2016 to 6/30/19.
Seconded. All those in favor? That's unanimous.
Industrial Development Commission, Michael Morant from 6/2016 to 6/30/19, and Robert Mitchell from 6/2016 to 6/30/19.
Seconded.
All those in favor? That's unanimous.
Milford Cultural Council, Margaret McIsaac from 6/2016 to 6/30/19, Judy Ducarel from 6/2016 to 6/30/19, Lisa White from 6/2016 to 6/30/19, Christopher D. Wilson from 6/2016 to 6/30/19, Michael A. Lalim, 6/2016 to 6/30/19.
I'll second.
All right, Brian, why don't you pick up Personnel Board and go from there?
Move to reappoint to the Personnel.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
that
I'm
was
sorry.
seconded. I didn't
Oh,
finish the vote.
okay.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
That's unanimous.
There you go.
Sorry.
All right.
jumping ahead.
Motion made to reappoint to the Personnel Board for the time period of 6/2016 to 6/30/21, Warren S. Heller Esquire.
Seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Move to reappoint to the Registrar of Voters for the time period of 6/2016 to 6/30/19, Geraldine A. Kincaid.
Seconded. All those in favor?
I'll be abstaining.
2 in favor, 1 abstention.
Move to reappoint to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the time period of June 20th, 2016 to June 30th, 2021, David H. Pine. And from the time period of June 20th, 2016 to June 30, 2019, John W. Mastriani Jr.
Seconded.
All those in favor? That's unanimous.
Move to reappoint to the Milford Youth Commission for the time period of June 20th, 2016 to June 30th, 2019, Susan Salamone, Michael Walsh, Kristen Kibbe.
Seconded.
All those in favor? That's unanimous. The other thing I'm going to ask is that the board members review the talent bank information that was provided and the vacancies that exist, and we'll take those up at July meeting, the next July meeting?
July 11th.
Yeah, I don't want to leave the boards too long without
Okay.
the support that they need, so keep in mind, review the talent bank information. That would be helpful. Next one we have is Fire Department, acceptance of a very generous gift. I'm sorry, the Italian Vets is next, apologize.
Okay.
The Italian Vets is looking for a one-day license for Hayward Field, July 3rd fireworks.
I'll move.
5 to 10
Seconded.
p.m. That's unanimous. Next, we have the Fire Department gift, and that's a very generous donation of $2,500. Hold on. Says there was no written correspondence with the gift. Oh, this is from Benjamin Moore, I'm sorry, I'm missing it, Benjamin Moore.
Just
Once
the
again.
check, ma'am.
Yeah. Is there a motion to accept?
I'll move.
Seconded.
I'll also vote in favor, that's unanimous. Thank you to them, Benjamin Moore, for their generous donation. Police Department acceptance of a gift from Benjamin Moore for $2,500.
I'll move.
Seconded.
Once again, thank you, Benjamin Moore, for their generosity to our first responders. I also vote in favor, that's unanimous. Next, we have a memo from the Youth Center, from Jen Ward, looking to get rid of surplus equipment, 2 basketball hoops at Congress Street, a shed at Congress Street, miscellaneous office furniture, miscellaneous sports equipment.
I'll move, and I can tell you they have a whole heck of a lot more surplus stuff they could add to that list.
Okay?
Seconded.
This is the beginning, right?
Yeah, I hope
I'll also
so.
vote in favor, that's unanimous. Evergreen Center, one-day license, they've, Evergreen Center submitted a one-day request for the Evergreen Center Multicultural Community Festival, Saturday, July 23rd, 11 to 5 p.m., rain date Sunday, July 24th.
I'll move.
Seconded.
Also vote in favor, that's unanimous. Next, we have correspondence from the Attorney General's office regarding OUI last drink data. I'll go out to the members of the board. Any comments, thoughts, anything that you'd like to bring up related to this?
Mr. Chairman, I think on this list, we only had 2 locations, the Casa Brazil, 112 Main Street, and then the Turtle Tavern. I think what we've done in the past is send correspondence advising them that they were so on the list.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't ask before the correspondence, but is there any other new business from the members of the board?
I have nothing.
Any new business?
Thank you.
Okay. Given that, this is the end of our open session. We now have executive session to go into treasurer contract discussion, collective bargaining for clerical and firefighters.
I'll move.
Okay,
Seconded.
that's, I'll vote in favor, that's unanimous. Now I'll go roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
I also vote in the affirmative. We will not be returning to open session. Thank you and good evening.